Whether you love him or you hate him, Gumball has become one of the most popular cartoon characters of all time. Because of this, the Amazing World of Gumball TV show has a total of 240 episodes at the time of this recording, which in turn means there's a lot of interesting lore. Some of it is really weird, some of it is really important, and some of it kind of makes no sense at all. Actually, despite being extremely recognizable and financially successful, not everyone seems to be a fan of this goofy blue cat and his adopted goldfish brother. So today, in an attempt to find out why some people criticize it so much, I'll be watching every single quote-unquote bad Gumball episode in full while explaining everything that happens and overanalyzing all the little details the creators snuck in just for fun. Obviously, an episode being bad is pretty subjective, by the way, but these specific episodes are mostly the lowest rated ones, and pretty much all of these have received a good amount of hate online through forums or wikis, so yeah. Also, there's a tier list at the very end of the video. Very hype. Are these episodes really that bad? Do the writers of the show have an obsession with ugly faces and torturing their lovable characters? Well, let's find out by watching every single bad Gumball episode ever.
If you feel me, smash the like button below.
This first episode is called The Kiss. It's actually the third lowest rated episode ever, not the second, but I actually already covered the second lowest rated episode by chance in an earlier video, so go check that out if you care at all. The worst episode ever, though, will definitely be in this video, okay? Don't worry, we're all gonna suffer together. Our story begins at the Watterson family's house. Turns out mom and dad are leaving for a bit, so the kids are staying home under the supervision of Grandma JoJo. In case you don't know, this is Gumball, this is Darwin, and this is Laziest. They're all siblings, I think. So because of all this, we don't get to see Nicole and Richard too much in this episode, which is very sad, actually, because although he's a pink rabbit, Richard is also low-key the goat.
Richard, those go in the trunk. That's the gas tank.
I love Richard, man.
Stop laughing
He's
at
so
your father.
brainless,
He
but
tried
you gotta
very
respect
hard.
him anyway, because he's got
That's
heart,
the glove
you know?
box.
Gumball's a little nervous for his grandma to come over, because she has a habit of kissing all the kids on the cheek when she does. So before Nicole leaves, Gumball actually tells her that he doesn't want his grandma JoJo to kiss him on the cheek anymore, because he's too old for that now, apparently. Some grandmas are just like that, dude. Okay, you're gonna have to deal with it. Nicole and Richard pack their car in world record pace because they want to avoid getting kissed themselves, and that's when we see her. Grandmother Joanna arrives. Why does this scene go on for so long? So this is the moment that the entire episode revolves around, by the way. This episode is called The Kiss, and I don't see any chocolate anywhere, so we're out of luck, it seems. Granny JoJo kisses Anais on the cheek. Everything is fine. She then kisses Darwin on the cheek. Everything is still fine. She then goes to kiss Gumball on the cheek, but for whatever reason, Gumball starts talking as soon as she's about to go in, so she accidentally kisses him on the mouth. This is probably the worst thing that could ever happen to a 12-year-old boy, excluding dying in Fortnite, of course. But yeah, Gumball gets a big smooch on the lips, and then Factory resets his entire existence from the embarrassment. The thing is that everyone here doesn't really seem to care. Like, even the grandma doesn't react at all. The siblings don't think anything of it. Gumball is just there making weird noises for a while. Once everyone gets back inside, I should mention that Anais is doing her best to bring Granny JoJo's suitcase upstairs. She ends up dropping it, and of course, the old granny clothes end up landing on Gumball. Her fake set of teeth also end up in Gumball's mouth somehow, which I think is actually more gross than the kiss a minute ago, but tomato, tomato, I suppose. So at this point, it's clear that Gumball is in distress. He's kind of freaking out internally and should probably viciously brush his teeth ASAP, which is when Darwin suggests that Gumball should go to his happy place. We've all heard that expression before. A happy place is just a place you think of that just makes you happy, obviously. The problem here, though, is that Gumball doesn't really seem to have a happy place. He just can't think of one, I guess, is the joke. Darwin shows off his own happy place so we can see what that's all about. In this instance, it's a very literal place, by the way. Darwin's happy place just seems to be real life, but everyone around him is happy, I guess. There's a happy tree, there's some happy garbage. There's even a guy breaking into a car that's like really happy to be there.
Hey, dangerous criminal.
Oh, hey, Darwin.
Don't mind me, I'm just causing thousands of dollars in damages for your neighbor. So yeah, everything in this so-called happy place is just super friendly, albeit a little cursed at times.
I too have to eat in the kebab.
This is when two butterflies land on Darwin's hand and remind Gumball of his grandmother and the kiss they shared earlier. Scary stuff right here. I'm legitimately terrified. Gumball eventually realizes that he just doesn't have his own happy place, so he's probably just gonna suffer with his anxiety and embarrassment for the rest of his life. I've said it before, but this is extremely relatable. Good job, TV show devs. Checking in on Anais now, and she's still trying to get Granny JoJo's suitcase up the stairs. She's having a real hard time. What could Grandma possibly have in this thing? It weighs like 300 pounds. Some cartoon shenanigans happen, and the suitcase flies outside, trapping Gumball in it for the next 30 hours. Sounds like a Mr. Beast video or something. Poor Gumball. But seriously, everything Gumball does after this point reminds him of the kiss. All jokes aside, he definitely has some sort of trauma. It's almost like he's having constant panic attacks, which is pretty crazy, honestly. They do that Inception thing where he wakes up from a nightmare, but then it ends up being another nightmare, so he wakes up again from that nightmare. It's all very simple and easy to follow. Also, Darwin sleeps in a tiny fishbowl, apparently. Like I said, I'm pretty new to this show, so I don't understand everything, but doesn't this seem kind of weird? Like, I get that Darwin's a fish, but does that mean he can just breathe underwater all the time? And like, that bowl seems pretty small for him. Surely he'd want a bigger bowl. Can they not just get like a bigger bowl for him or something? Is he forced to sleep in there maybe? Maybe the parents want him to sleep in the bowl. I don't know. Who knows? Man, I'm not a fish. I don't know. So it's the next day now, and in an effort to help Gumball forget the worst moment of his life, Darwin sets up some sort of public physical therapy session. And yes, it's as bad as you think it's gonna be. Essentially, Gumball is forced to run through this over-the-top obstacle course, and the idea is that he'll be so busy focusing on not dying that he'll just forget about what happened one day earlier. I'm not sure if that's how memories work usually, but what do I know? I'm just a guy who sucks at video games. No! I just lost everything, dude. Gumball runs super fast. He jumps into a pile of garbage. He covers himself with snail goo. This one's really weird. And these things actually do get his mind off the kiss. But the problem with all of this is that after every physical activity Gumball does, Darwin asks him if he forgot about the kiss, which in turn makes him remember about the kiss, obviously. It's like when someone says that you're manually breathing, or that your tongue doesn't fit in your mouth, or that you have an itch on your back. I'm trying to fit as many of these as possible to make you guys uncomfortable. You lost the game.
The sounds of suffering.
Oh no. Oh no, I don't like that at all. Ooh, that's not good. I did not like that at all. The session ends with Gumball being pushed in between some giant toe fungus. I'm not kidding. And then in the end, he actually does forget about the kiss somehow. So I guess if you ever have a bad experience and want to forget about it, just do something even worse and you should be fine. What a good message. Back to Anais. Remember her? I hope I'm saying her name right. She finally got the suitcase up the stairs, but in true frustrating cartoon fashion, Granny Jojo asks for it to be brought back down because she's actually leaving any minute now. How unfortunate.
Now bring it back down. My bus will be here any minute.
Why is this so scary? It feels like there's gonna be a jump scare or something. Jeez. Gumball is celebrating, which is kind of weird, since if he doesn't remember the kiss, he'd have no reason to celebrate forgetting about the kiss, but whatever. Grandma Jojo gives Anais a kiss on the cheek. She then gives Darwin a kiss on the cheek. You can probably tell where this is going. Gumball is about to get his own kiss on the cheek, when of course, he turns his head slightly and gets a kiss on the lips from his grandmother again. What the f was the point of this? This lowest rated episode ever is called The Girlfriend. Half of you are thinking that this episode can't be that bad, and the other half just smacked their head against their desk. This episode begins at school with a character named Jamie. To add a bit of context, Jamie is basically the school's bully and is described to be mean-spirited, sadistic, and actually crazy. Having a full episode based around this one character that no one likes is surely a good idea. Did she just eat that guy's head? That has to be like assault or something. There's no way, right? Side note, I didn't really mention this earlier, but the mix of styles in this show is really cool. This is unrelated to this episode specifically, and I'm saying it pretty deep into this video, which is probably a bad idea. But I like the mix of real world elements with multiple different art styles. It's very unique, actually. It's just cool how everything kind of looks different, I think. I'll give it a +1 epicness on the Darzii chart, whatever that is. Anyway, yeah, Jamie is bullying everyone and is the most unpleasant person in the entire world, which is when she realizes that she's actually being a mean person and that she wants to be more caring of others. What better way to do this than to find a love partner? I'm not kidding. Yeah, Jamie's whole shtick this episode is that she needs to find a boyfriend so that she can learn to love people. It's very sweet and not awkward at all. Just trust me. Anyway, skipping ahead, at one point, Jamie just so happens to be sitting next to Darwin. So of course, Darwin is the lucky guy that gets to now be in a committed relationship with a toxic partner at just 10 years old. That's like 50 years old in goldfish years. So honestly, he should be ready for this. So Jamie decides that Darwin is her new boyfriend and the two go on about their day. After a quick pep talk from Gumball, Darwin thinks the best plan of action is to just play along with Jamie's relationship, but also making sure not to say anything about it. So yeah, that's the story. Jamie forces Darwin to be her boyfriend, and then everyone else is just like, that's weird. The next day, we're back at school, and simply ignoring Jamie is actually going pretty well for Darwin.
Okay, rule 1.
If you ignore me,
Jamie just threatens everyone all the time. Where are the teachers in this school? This next scene is actually pretty funny. Jamie hands Darwin a gift, and inside it is just another gift. But this second gift is actually meant for Jamie herself. So Jamie explains that she got Darwin the gift of giving. It's actually pretty clever. I don't know, it's really funny. Funnily enough, in the end, Jamie just doesn't like the gift that's inside the box. So she hits a 9-hit combo on the locker next to her. It's pretty epic. And I will say, even though everyone involved is either super angry or super terrified, Jamie is still super adamant on continuing the relationship and changing for the better. She even blows Darwin a kiss and really tries to change her attitude. Later that day during lunch, Jamie sits in between Darwin and Gumball. If I was Gumball here, I would run away at Mach 10 speed, but it's his call, I guess. But then, this is when Gumball and Darwin have a quick meeting under a cafeteria table. Gumball advises Darwin to get the hell out of there while he still can, but Darwin has a much more optimistic way of looking at the situation. It's clear to Darwin that Jamie just needs to learn to love herself, and he's playing along for now in hopes that she'll get tired of chasing him and maybe learn a valuable lesson along the way. You can tell Darwin has never played a Bloons tower defense game a day in his life. No one waits it out. Everyone clicks the fast forward button. Come on, Darwin, just get on with it.
Something more like this.
What the hell is that? That's so cursed. Oh my god. Is that Ariana Grande? There's also this scene where Jamie and Darwin are just staring at each other for a solid 10 seconds without saying a single word. It's super weird and makes me feel very uncomfortable. Jamie gets in a fight and makes some gorilla noises, as you do. Later in gym class, she starts lifting an entire treadmill for fun. She's honestly kind of just a psycho. And then Richard shows up. His appearance here isn't really that important and it just pads the runtime, to be honest. But I've already said that he's the best character in the entire show, so I'm obligated to give him a mention here. Even later, in class now, again, without a teacher, this might not be an actual school, Jamie realizes that Darwin is always with Gumball. So in an effort to grow as a person, instead of getting mad or something, Jamie decides that she's gonna date Darwin and Gumball at the same time. What could go wrong? So all three of them are now in this weird love triangle, except it's more like a game of Subway Surfers, if anything, since Gumball and Darwin are just trying to run away the entire time. Gumball has this weird vision where he sees himself and Darwin marrying Jamie and taking care of her for the rest of their lives. Also in this vision, they also have a bunch of kids for some reason. Let's not read into that too much. But this is when Gumball says F it and straight up just runs away. And what happens next is this chase scene straight out of Dead by Daylight. It also kind of reminds me of The Shining because Jamie is really sinister in this and just acts like really creepy. Like you definitely get the vibe she's just gonna kill someone one day, or at least eat their head again. Gumball running in a dark hallway mixed with the camera shake, mixed with the random jump scare sound effects. This entire scene is huge nightmare fuel, like especially if you're on the younger side watching this. Like if this episode came on instead of Scooby-Doo when I was a kid, I probably would have been actually really scared. I mean, partly because I was a little baby, but also this shit is straight up terrifying.
Please help me.
Anyway, eventually when Gumball is in tears and screaming, Jamie comes to her senses and just gives up on hurting him or whatever. She was holding a bat at one point, which I could only assume she would have used to hit him with very hard. Jamie explains that forcing someone to be her boyfriend just isn't right. She over-explains herself here because there's nothing funnier in a kid's cartoon than using big words that kids never use. What a sensational concept. She goes on this spiel about what love truly is. And I gotta mention this real quick. I'm just noticing now how much Jamie sounds like Awkwafina. I don't know, she has that iconic raspy pitch that I'm hearing. I just thought that was funny. Like, it's probably not her, but you know, it sounds like her. I don't know. Should have probably mentioned that sooner, but it is what it is. Anyway, Darwin shows up. Despite everything, Jamie gets really mad because that's what she does at the end of the day. And then she decides to falcon punch Darwin into a literal coma. Darwin wakes up days later in what's probably the ugliest condition he'll ever be in ever. And then that's just kind of the end.
You know, dude, all you had to do was keep your mouth shut and say nothing.
That's it? What? And that was the lowest rated Gumball episode of all time. Was it actually the worst? Well, as someone who hasn't watched the entire series, it's impossible to say, but out of the 4 episodes that I've actually watched, yeah, it's pretty bad. Having a whole episode revolve around a side character that isn't enjoyable is usually a bad sign. Also, like other popular cartoons, having the main characters get beat up and tortured is honestly never fun to watch. Stop doing this. Gumball and Darwin are put in these weird situations where they're either scared for their life or in physical pain. I guess that can be kind of funny sometimes. The only thing the first episode I covered really has going for it is that at least it's just Gumball getting tortured. Like Darwin's fine in that one, at least, I guess. And listen, I know it's just a cartoon, and when you write over 200 episodes of a TV show, there's going to be some creative stumps. So although I personally don't like these episodes and would even call them kind of bad, it probably doesn't reflect the show as a whole. I know a lot of people still really like Gumball and are excited for the new season, and that's great to hear. At the end of the day, I'm just a guy talking about stuff that I find interesting. It's really not that deep. Whatever you do, guys, just don't tell Gumball's voice actor I hear that guy gets mad really easily.
I'll tell you right now.
This first episode that everyone seems to hate is called The Dress. We're starting off strong with this one. Oh boy. Our adventure begins with Gumball and Darwin sliding down a set of stairs for no other reason than the two are just really bored. Man, when you're 12 years old, falling down a flight of stairs really is the most exciting thing imaginable. It's actually time to head to school. However, turns out Gumball is completely naked. I'm not kidding here, Gumball just has no clothes on right now. They even added in some blurry box around his crotch to make sure you understand he's 100% naked here. Gumball tries to find some clothes real quick, but can't seem to do it. I don't want to make this weird, but like, this is weird, right? It's not some funny haha where his pants get ripped and he's all embarrassed or something. Gumball is actually just straight up naked here. What is this? Cyberpunk? Turns out Richard shrunk all of Gumball's clothes on accident, or so he says. I think this dude is secretly an evil mastermind, but that's just me. So because he needs clothes for the day, Gumball is given his last option, which for some reason is his mother's wedding dress. This is the only thing that Gumball could possibly wear today. Everything else is in the wash. How unfortunate. I'm pretty sure Gumball's mother is like a lot taller than him, so I'm not sure how this would even fit Gumball, to be honest. But I also wouldn't put it past this show if Gumball's parents randomly got married at like 12 years old or something. This show's weird like that. Gumball tries to wear Kanye West's new designer t-shirt, but figures he's better off wearing something actually wearable, so he bites the bullet and just wears the dress all day. That's the episode, by the way. Gumball wears an expensive wedding dress at school. What could go wrong? Also, Richard just straight up dies. Doesn't really matter. This next part is actually super important to remember for this episode, so pay attention here. Anais, who's Gumball's sister, shows up and immediately recognizes Gumball because obviously she does. He doesn't look any different here. She makes fun of him for a bit, and then out of nowhere, a bunch of side characters show up and start a conversation. As someone who's pretty new to this series, seeing a balloon, a T-Rex, and whatever the hell this is, all walking and talking is kind of weird. But knowing how diehard the Gumball fan base is, I'm sure half of these characters are simped for online every day. Like, does this guy have interesting lore at all? There's no way, right?
Who are you?
Wait, they don't recognize him in the dress? Do T-Rexes have poor eyesight or something? I don't understand. So there's this weird thing that happens where all these people that definitely know who Gumball is, for some reason just don't recognize him while he's wearing the dress. I'd brush this off as a funny cartoon haha, but Anais literally recognized him, like immediately, actually. So either Anais is a big brain detective, or everyone else just inhaled carbon monoxide. There's no in between. These are the only two options. Anyway, the school bus arrives, so everyone gets on and heads to school. Everyone but Anais and Darwin, who finally shows up. So like, are these two not going to school at all? Why did they not get on the bus? What's important to note here is that Darwin sees a button that Gumball dropped on the ground, and he gets all excited in a love kind of way. I don't really know how to explain it better than that, honestly. It's clear that something very interesting is about to happen. We're now at school with Gumball and all the extras. Gumball asks Darwin if he can copy his homework because the two are bros for life. Except Darwin seems to think Gumball is a pretty girl, actually. So he makes big goo goo gaga eyes, and oh my god, this entire episode is just gonna be Darwin trying to date Gumball, isn't it?
You can copy mine.
No, mine! How about mine?
Are there no other girls in this school or something? Why is everyone so in love with Gumball all of a sudden? The teacher, for some reason, doesn't question why there's a brand new student in their class. Also, I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but this teacher has probably the most annoying cartoon voice I think I've ever heard. Please tell me someone agrees with me on this.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard!
After class, we get this tell-all scene where Darwin tells Anais that he's just straight up in love with the new girl. He's obviously talking about Gumball here, but he doesn't know that it's Gumball. Also, I guess these two did show up at school today, so they just decided to walk instead of taking the bus earlier. They must have sprinted really fast so they can make class on time. Anyway, Gumball is now fully embracing all of the attention. He's taking all of his Yas Queen energy and sharing it sparingly, like he's the moderator of a Discord server or something. And listen, as weird and nonsensical as this episode is so far, there are some funny moments of dialogue sprinkled here and there. One of my favorites being when there's a puddle of water in Gumball's way.
Just walk around like this.
Oh, she's so clever.
So independent. What a free thinker.
Gumball is talking to Anais and even calls her his sister right next to Darwin, but still, this dude has no idea. Darwin takes a quick picture from behind Gumball. He then has a manic episode and licks the picture. This is a nice reference to Activision. Every time they see an overpriced microtransaction, they never fail to deliver that one. Funny how that works. We then get an almost minute-long montage about how everyone is in love with Gumball. He gets treated very differently than everyone else. Everyone is way nicer to him now. And the reason for this is because he looks like a girl, I think. I like to think that the idea for this episode came up because one of the writers just randomly thought that the voice actor for Gumball sounded like a girl. I don't know why, it's just a funny thought to me. It kind of does, honestly, not gonna lie. Anyway, later that day, and Gumball receives a very cryptic letter from Darwin. It's actually asking for the two to meet up on a roller coaster later that night. The meme here is that Darwin is obviously asking Gumball out, out on a date, but Gumball just thinks that Darwin wants to hang out as bros or whatever. Gumball still has no idea that Darwin doesn't recognize him, is what I'm trying to say. Listen, I know for a fact that goldfish actually have amazing eyesight, so Darwin really has no excuse here. Later, while on the roller coaster, Darwin is acting all weird because he thinks there's a girl within touching distance. Gumball has no idea there could be a demon right next to him for all he cares. You won't even know. The two ride the roller coaster up, and right before they reach the drop, Darwin whispers that he's in love. It's very creepy, and this scene should be avoided at all costs. You have been warned. I love you immediately dies. Sounds like Shakespeare, it's so poetic. Later that day, and Gumball is now scarred because he thinks Darwin is a 3 out of 10 at best. Sorry, Darwin, I don't make the rules. For some reason, Gumball is still wearing the dress, despite it being hours later, at the very least. Surely your clothes are washed and dried by this point. Gumball is pretty traumatized and even daydreams of what he thinks is the worst case scenario. And I'm just gonna play this scene here because it's actually just wild. I know this is just a quick joke, but if you really think about all the implications here, this is actually insane. Like, how does this exist? So Gumball needs to stop pretending to be a girl because he's getting creeped out. Instead of just not wearing the dress anymore, he goes through this elaborate ruse where he tells everyone that he's off to Europe for some political reason. I'm not kidding. He does this thing where he attempts the old bait and switch with a balloon. Everyone around here thinks that this balloon is the girl they've all been fantasizing about now, somehow. The balloon flies into the sun and everyone freaks out and even cries. And at first I thought this was pretty silly because obviously, like, it's just a balloon. But then I remembered how there was a talking balloon earlier, so this is low-key a very real death everyone just saw. Like, this dude was just murdered by the sun in real time. Gumball is now naked again because no pants equals lots of laughs. The dress falls perfectly onto a fire hydrant, so Darwin immediately falls in love with that now. Everyone laughs at Gumball because he's nude, and then the episode just ends. This most hated episode ever is called The Slap. For those of you who've never watched this episode before, I'm sorry in advance. Our story begins with Gumball and Darwin trying to come up with a new way to high five. Gumball comes up with something called digit docking, which is definitely a name that had to have been chosen intentionally because it's probably the worst name for anything ever. Seriously, there's no way they called it that. What? Digit docking? That's crazy. The two go through a bunch of these wacky greeting alternatives, which is when Darwin mentions that at least none of these are as bad as what Tobias does when he says hi to someone. But what does he do? I hear you asking. Well, no need for me to explain because lucky for us, Tobias is showing up right now.
Hey. Oh, hey Idaho, my brotato.
Wait, he just slaps everyone on the butt? Bro's trying to catch a case. That's crazy. Tobias's infamous greeting is high-fiving someone and then slapping their behind right after. I know people who do this in real life. They're not normal people. This is very weird. So Tobias makes his way towards Gumball and Darwin, slapping everyone's butt on the way there. When he arrives, he slaps Darwin, but then surprisingly doesn't slap Gumball, like, at all. He just high-fives him and then he leaves. Maybe Tobias is a League of Legends player and still thinks Gumball is a girl. He wouldn't dare touch one of those things.
No thanks, ma'am. I'm actually gay.
In all seriousness though, Gumball is also pretty confused here. Gumball is literally the only person Tobias isn't slapping on the butt. Of course, that sounds like a blessing in disguise, but Gumball of course takes this as an insult, so the rest of the episode is just Gumball trying to get slapped on the ass. I'm not kidding. Later in the gym, Tobias slaps everyone but Gumball. Later in the hallway, Tobias slaps everyone but Gumball. Gumball even does this weird pose where he sticks his butt out, and there's an undeniable sexual tension brewing. Things are getting pretty creepy. Tobias tries to leave, but Gumball stretches his butt around to make it follow Tobias. Is this Gumball's tail or something? I'm not really sure what I'm even looking at here. You guys are gonna hate me for this, but this straight up reminds me of Skibbity Toilet, like how the head stretches out. I don't know why. My brain is cooked. Also, Skibbity Toilet video at 100K subscribers. Please subscribe so I can suffer through every episode. I need help. Please send help. Tobias runs away from the butt, which is something I never thought I'd actually say. Later, Gumball pretends to choke to get Tobias to slap him. This episode is honestly just the same joke over and over again. Please let me know which episode could possibly be worse than this one. I'm open to your suggestions. It's the same thing in music class. It's the same thing in math class. It's the same thing in the library. You think this episode would be a YouTube short, the way it just loops over and over again, basically.
What are you doing? I don't know anymore.
I genuinely think Gumball is going insane. Just go play a video game or something, dude. It's not that deep. So this next part actually caught me off guard a little bit. We get a whole minute and a half about how Gumball is singing about his butt and how it's not good enough. To put that into perspective, that's almost 15% of this entire episode dedicated to a song with lyrics like, I only want a pat, just a tiny bump, a casual little hey there for my lonely rump. Riveting storytelling. How has this not won an Emmy Award yet? Anyway, the song kind of means nothing because the next day and Gumball is back at it again, trying to get slapped hard. He tries to use Darwin to bait Tobias, but that doesn't really work either. Tobias just ends up knocking himself out.
Oh wait, it still counts if he's unconscious, right?
The next scene, and Gumball has completely lost it at this point. He's gone full Joker and has no sense of normality with his actions. It's basically a horror movie now. Considering nothing has really happened in this episode so far, the writers finally decide to change it up a little bit. So this next scene has Tobias going to the roof of the school to meet a girl he likes, but actually it was a setup by Gumball to trap him on the roof. The only problem is, turns out Gumball has been waiting on the roof for 2 days now? What? So just to clarify, because the show doesn't really explain it that well, Gumball put a fake letter in Tobias's locker to bait him to go on the roof, but there was an undisclosed time skip, and it's actually 2 days later when Tobias finally arrives. The only door back down locks from the inside, so when Tobias finally shows up, the boys are now stuck up there until someone saves them. This quickly turns into some castaway survival episode. When Gumball and Tobias are on the brink of death for the next couple hours, they try to eat a rat for food, they try to eat each other for food. It's all very insane. At one point, they try to signal for help, but this dude in a helicopter just doesn't care at all.
Need help?
Need help.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Most helpful police officer in California. There's another song that I can't really play because YouTube will destroy this video if I do. The two are starving, dehydrated, and exhausted now. It reminds me of that one moment in the SpongeBob movie where they're all dried up. Good reference, honestly. They start hallucinating, which is kind of funny, I guess. They finally talk about their real feelings, and Gumball says that he just wants to be a part of the slap greeting thing. He feels like he's not a part of the friendship, and he just wants to be a part of it. That's basically it. He's got FOMO. Tobias explains that he never slapped Gumball because he just thought that Gumball wouldn't like it. This whole time, he was just being a good friend and respecting Gumball's boundaries. But since Gumball wants it so bad, Tobias says the next time he sees him, he'll slap his butt no problem. Issue solved. It was actually that easy. Also, does this guy think everyone else likes to get slapped on the butt? What does any of this mean? We then skip to the next day when Tobias greets Gumball, high-fives him, and slaps him on the butt. And then, in the most frustrating ending to a cartoon ever, Gumball slaps Tobias back, but this time in the face. He gets really angry because he feels violated, and turns out this whole thing was for nothing. He didn't want to get slapped after all.
Actually slapping people's butt is not one of them. Someone has to take a stand.
And that was the most hated Gumball episode of all time. Was it really that bad? I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like it. Sure, it probably wasn't the most offensive Gumball episode or even the most boring, but this horrible mix of obscene premise meets repetitive scenes just kind of ruins it for me. The songs, although well sung, feel out of place and just seem like filler. Nothing in it is really funny or leads anywhere. I guess compared to the first episode I covered, this one's more straightforward and focused on its conflict resolution. I mean, when your resolution is getting slapped on the butt, I'm not so sure that's a good thing, but whatever. All in all, both of these are pretty hated, and according to you guys, one of these is the most hated Gumball episode of all time. This first episode is called The Promise. If you like it when characters get neglected, gaslit, and tortured, this is the episode for you. Our story begins after class when Gumball, Darwin, and pretty much everyone else is on the school bus. Gumball and Darwin are looking for a spot to sit, but turns out everyone here basically hates these guys for some reason. Surely it's not because they mistreat people all the time. That can't be it. They ask to sit next to Carrie, but she says no. They ask to sit next to Leslie, but he says no. They ask to sit next to Tobias, but he jump scares everyone and then says no.
People aren't animals, dude. Hey, Tobias, do you mind moving so we can sit?
Oh my god, dude, why did he do that? Tobias is literally that one lone wolf meme with the sneakers. Bro, I swear. Gumball also asks a person named Sussy. I'm not kidding. They actually say yes, but they're also kind of a weirdo, so Gumball says, actually, never mind. You can have it. Side note, if this character has any interesting lore at all, I would love to know about it. What even is this character about? Eventually, the two get to the back of the bus and ask a goated character named Banana Joe if they can sit next to him. This guy is angrier than most of the other people on the bus, and for good reason. There's a whole minute-long scene where Gumball and Darwin just list off the horrible things they've done to this guy. Anyway, this scene kind of actually makes no sense at all, because while they're asking Banana Joe why they can't sit next to him, they're both sitting next to him. Like, you guys are already doing it, so like, whatever. I'm getting major bully vibes from these guys, not gonna lie. Anyway, it's not all bad though, because Darwin is kind of nice and says that they can all three hang out this weekend, but Gumball, being a global elite gamer, says that this weekend won't work because he's got something special planned. I wonder what he's talking about. I'm shaking in anxiety to find out. A little while later, when Gumball and Darwin are at the grocery store getting some snacks, we hear Gumball mention that a new game just came out.
No peanut butter. The more time spreading the stuff, the less time playing the game.
So Gumball is talking about how him and Darwin are going to game out all night on this new game called The Tale of Elmore. I wonder what this could possibly be referencing. We even get to see a flashback of these two's initial reaction to the release of the game. They pause their Roblox obby run to check it out. That's how you know it's serious. They're also probably running off of Mr. Beast Feastables, Prime, and whatever that green stuff is in those lunch leaves.
We're gonna buy this game and play it
two were purple.
This sounds like a very unhealthy addiction already. How do they even have money for this game? New games are like $100 nowadays, tax in. The two finish up buying snacks at the grocery store. Gumball makes fun of Darwin's voice for a bit. It's a fun time.
He was so angry, he looked like he was gonna get a nosebleed.
So far, nothing in this episode is really that bad. Why do people hate it so much? I have a feeling we're about to find out. Other than Gumball's back literally breaking under the weight of his own guilt, nothing of note really happens here. But then, this is when Banana Joe randomly shows up at the same grocery store. Well, I'd like to say it's random, but knowing him, he's probably following Darwin around like it's a Metal Gear mission or something. Darwin spots him, so he tries to secretly communicate with him while Gumball is just meant to be clueless, I guess. Gumball is kind of sorta mean here. He's making a conscious effort to neglect Banana Joe. Darwin feels bad, so he tells Banana Joe to meet him at the soda machine. A little later, and everyone is in line waiting for their copy of that new Elmore video game. There's these two guys in line, which serve as a nice reference to every person who leaves negative comments on my videos. This is my channel. I can do what I want.
This is what happens when you spend all your time flaming people on web forums.
You don't get girlfriends.
Anyway, while Gumball is waiting for his copy of the game and having a 1v1 with this jittering blob, Darwin meets up with Banana Joe at the vending machine, and this is the moment where the episode changes forever. I'm making this sound dramatic. It's a turning point in the story. There's a weird dynamic going on where Darwin wants to be nice and give Banana Joe the time of day, but also he just really wants to wait in line to secure his copy of the new game coming out. Eventually, what we get is an awkward one-sided conversation where Darwin is slowly trying to leave. Banana Joe says that he's making a new video later that night. I guess this guy's a YouTuber. I wasn't aware that he was such a hard worker. I commend you, sir, for your online service. Darwin says that he's leaving to go get his game, but pay attention here. Darwin promises that he'll show up and help out with Banana Joe's video later on. The name of this episode is The Promise. Surely this won't be a horrible idea.
Don't let me down! I won't, I promise!
That does not sound like a good promise to me. The music was really ramping up there. I feel like things are gonna get serious. Later that day, Gumball and Darwin can finally play the new game. In case you had any doubts at all, there's a straight up Zelda reference when they take the disc out of the case. This is very epic. As a gamer, I rate this 10 out of 10. Give this TV show an Oscar now. While playing, Darwin starts to feel bad, so he sneaks off to go check on Banana Joe. At least that's what he would have done if Gumball didn't strategically place a stack of bricks at the bottom of the window, causing Darwin to break every single bone in his body, which stops him from escaping. Gumball gets really mad and starts yelling at him. I'd call Gumball a narcissistic sociopath, but honestly, I think he's just cranky because they were out of those Scooby-Doo gummies earlier at the grocery store. Those are the best, man. I'd be mad too, honestly. All jokes aside, Darwin just asks if Banana Joe can just hang out with them and play the game, but when Gumball says no, Darwin tries to gaslight him into thinking Banana Joe was part of the plans all along. I'm pretty sure everyone in this show is secretly evil because, like, what the actual dude?
When it comes out, you and me, buddy. And Banana Joe. We're gonna play this game.
Dude is straight up just gaslighting his best friend. Dude thinks he's Dennis from Always Sunny. That's crazy. Skipping to Banana Joe, who's recording his video. He's doing this gym workout thing. He's a little awkward about it. It's clear from this video that Banana Joe is a pretty lonely guy. I can't help but to feel bad for him here. Like, I just want to give him a hug or something. Anyway, Banana Joe tries to bench press some weights, but immediately fails and gets squished open. He explains that because no one is there with him, he's in a tricky situation, but thankfully one of his friends is showing up soon. I mean, they did promise. Right? Darwin and Gumball are still arguing. Darwin wants to go see Banana Joe, but Gumball won't let him. During this, Banana Joe is still waiting for Darwin's help. He moves the weights around a bit and then rips open, and we can actually see his insides fall out of him. It's actually kind of hard to watch in a weird way. Like, obviously this guy is just a banana, but I can't help but to think how we're watching a man die right in front of us. Like, I don't know. Those are probably his guts and stuff, right? This feels weird. And you're probably thinking it's okay because Darwin's gonna end up doing the right thing and save his friend. But no, this episode goes all in on being mean. Darwin and Gumball make up on this fake argument they were having, and in the end, Darwin decides that they're better off just playing the video game together all day. Screw Banana Joe, I guess. Who needs potassium anyway? We watched Banana Joe die for a bit. It's very sad. The next day, and we're back on the bus with Banana Joe covered in bandages. Gumball and Darwin have seemingly learned no lesson from this journey at all, and that's kind of it. This episode that everyone hates so much is called The Laziest. We start this episode off with Nicole giving Richard a bunch of chores to finish before the end of the day. Richard, being a huge fan of One Piece, decides to not do anything at all for the next 200 chapters and simply just sits on the couch. This is when Gumball and Darwin show up and Richard immediately tricks them into somehow taking out the trash. He tells them that they're James Bond or something and they need to hide the body. Good thing you have your copy of 007, I guess. Told you it would make sense. Kinda. The boys get angry because they realize they were being tricked into doing chores. Richard says sorry, but explains that he has a medical condition called laziness. How relatable. Gumball says that 3 can play that game and explains that him and Darwin will also be super lazy because why not?
We're gonna be the lazy ones.
Richard's laughing because he knows no one's lazier than him. Dude's ranked high diamond in laziness, at least. Richard is so confident in his ability to out-lazy literally anyone that he makes a deal with his boys about who can be lazier. He explains that if Gumball and Darwin can find a single person lazier than him, he'll do their chores for the whole day. At first, Gumball and Darwin try to out-lazy Richard themselves, but they fail horribly. Richard's just sitting there watching thumb wrestling on TV while the boys are dying of boredom. Turns out they can't out-lazy Richard, so they have to find someone else who can. I heard Richard plays a lot of Overwatch and is used to the competitive queue times. I don't know if they're gonna find someone who can beat this guy. There's this whole bit where Gumball and Darwin get a sugar rush, so they're super hyper for a bit, but then they get a sugar crash, so they get super not hyper for a bit. It's kind of funny, I guess, but really it's just filler. That makes this the second One Piece reference so far. Gumball and Darwin go to the grocery store and find a guy they call Lazy Larry. Larry seems pretty shook when they mention that name, almost like he's embarrassed by it. Gumball and Darwin are about to expose that nickname to the entire store. Also, when I say Gumball and Darwin are saying something, I usually only mean Gumball is saying it. Darwin is just there saying nothing like 80% of the time, to be honest. Not sure why he's even in this episode.
Will Lazy Larry please come to the checkout? No one calls me that anymore.
After getting blackmailed, Lazy Larry explains that no one calls him that nickname anymore because he actually stopped being lazy years ago. Turns out Larry used to be the laziest guy in town, but he realized laziness is a horrible addiction and a toxic cycle, so he lost the title of Laziest to someone called Richard Watterson. What a twist. I'm shaking in unexpected shock. Larry explains that he's just not lazy at all anymore. He's got an awesome job, a car, a brand new house, and even a girlfriend that he's gonna marry one day. This guy seems so happy. I wonder if they're gonna ruin his life or something. I don't know. Despite all this, Gumball and Darwin won't give up and continuously annoy this guy. They want him to be lazy again so they can just like win the bet, I guess.
Please do it, Larry. Please do it, Larry.
What are they even asking him to do? They want him to leave mid-workday to like sit on the couch? I'm confused. The boys being annoying somehow causes Larry to get fired from his job, which is already so sad for me. If I was watching this for fun, I probably would have turned it off by now. Shout out to all my fellow empathetic gamers out there. Gumball and Darwin annoy Larry some more, this time while he's driving. It's kind of a jump scare, which causes Larry to jump out of his window and let his car crash off a cliff, Happy Wheel style. While Larry is being sad about losing his vehicle, the boys just keep being annoying. It's very creative. Good job, TV show devs. Later that night, when Larry is on a date with his girlfriend, he's actually about to propose to her. I don't even want to watch this. Dude, this guy has done nothing wrong.
Please do it, Larry. Please do it, Larry.
Get out of my life!
While Larry yells at Gumball and Darwin, his girlfriend thinks that he's talking to her, so now these two break up and the proposal is completely ruined. This guy can't catch a break at all. It's actually kind of sad. We cut to later that night when Larry is all alone on the brink of tears, honestly. He's completely depressed by this point because he lost his job, car, and the love of his life all in the same day. It's entirely Darwin and Gumball's fault too, but they are literally children, so I guess that makes them not legally liable or something. I hate these two in this episode, by the way. I just want to kick them or something. Kichimu's boss. Larry sits down in complete sadness as Gumball and Darwin slowly supply him with lazy objects like a soda drinking hat and a TV remote. Whatever you do, don't turn on this episode. You won't like it. Normal Larry transforms into Lazy Larry once again, so I guess this is like a good thing, even though the boys ruined his life. Later on in the day, they call him up so he can go beat Richard in a lazy off, but this dude is so lazy that he doesn't want to leave the house. I feel like they should have saw this coming. So because Lazy Larry doesn't want to show up to the house, this is when, and I'm not kidding here, Gumball disregards everything that just happened with Larry and says that him and Darwin will just try to out-lazy Richard themselves again. Like he's just giving up on the whole Larry thing. They screwed up that guy's entire life for nothing. And we don't even see Larry for the rest of the episode. He doesn't matter at all in this story's resolution. He doesn't show up. I'm so mad.
We're gonna take you on ourselves.
We will?
What? What was the point of literally anything that just happened? That actually made me kind of mad. Why would they do that? Anyway, so Gumball and Darwin are back to being lazy with Richard. It's really boring and nothing really happens. Darwin gets hit by a toaster randomly. I'm not kidding, so he's out of the competition. It comes down to Gumball and Richard in a 1v1 on Nuketown. This is very epic. Darwin gets to do whatever he wants now, and Gumball is getting really bored, so he's close to quitting, which is when Richard just gets up and quits before Gumball does. What?
Well, son, you're pretty lazy, my boy.
I guess Richard is so lazy that he can't even be lazy properly. Gumball and Darwin win the competition and dance for like 20 seconds for some reason. This is when Nicole arrives back home and sees the boys having fun while Richard is pretending to do the chores. This causes Gumball and Darwin to be forced to clean the house because Mother's word is final. She's the boss around here. So now the two are doing the chores while Richard continues to be lazy, and that's basically it. So you're telling me Lazy Larry loses everything because the main characters are super annoying, and in the end, the main characters even lose the bet they made in the first place? I can't do this. I'm out. I'm leaving. And that was the most hated Gumball episode ever, apparently. Was it really that bad? Honestly, it was just annoying. Like, I got frustrated watching this. Honestly, cartoons having episodes where certain characters get mistreated isn't anything new, but the idea of spending half of an entire episode just building a backstory up for this guy, only for the main characters to completely strip everything away from him, is actually insane. It's a normal dude, and they ruin his life. Even worse, they do it to this guy, and we never hear from him in the episode ever again. Like, it was actually just a pointless angle to pad the runtime. At least in The Promise, everything they did had a purpose. Sure, that one was hard to watch because it was kind of graphic, at least by Gumball standards, but The Laziest was just annoying. You probably weren't rooting for Gumball and Darwin at all in the end, but even if you were, they end up not even really winning the bet. So like, who's happy here? Richard fans? I guess? Whatever, dude. It's just a cartoon. It's harmless fun. I just wanted to talk about it. Do people actually hate these episodes? Let me know. This episode is called BFFs. The S at the end there implies having multiple friends, which is something I'm not familiar with, so I'm excited for this one. The story begins with a doorbell ringing and Darwin answering the front door. He sees what he thinks is just some random toy sitting on his porch, but turns out this is just an actual person.
Dude, I'm alive. This is just how I look.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
For you!
This guy's name is Fuzzy. He reminds me of one of those Furby toys. Not sure if anyone remembers those. I don't even know if they're still a thing, but yeah, he reminds me of that. Anyway, Gumball shows up and turns out that Fuzzy and Gumball go way back. They're basically best friends. They just haven't seen each other in a couple years. It seems pretty harmless, but the issue with this is that Darwin is secretly a Discord moderator and gets very jealous at the thought of anyone touching his kitten. Darwin asks Gumball how long ago did Fuzzy and him meet. Gumball states that it was probably just a couple years before Darwin arrived. So like, are they brothers? Or maybe stepbrothers or something? What's going on here? I don't understand. Anyway, Darwin keeps asking questions about Fuzzy and Gumball's relationship, but then he also just shrugs off every answer he's given. It's kind of manipulative and gives off extreme sociopath behavior, not gonna lie.
Things were moving along. We'd moved into a hideout together. What are you doing now?
Oh, just looking for a darn to give.
Gumball and Darwin then do their own version of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, so Gumball grabs Fuzzy and leaves to spend some time with him. It's during these scenes where we learn a little bit more about Fuzzy and who he is. Turns out he lives in Minnesota. Fuzzy basically just cracks fun about how it's really cold in Minnesota. There's lots of snow and not much else. He also jokes about being a wanted criminal, which is funny, I guess.
Made any friends?
It's hard to tell. Everyone is wearing ski masks all year long. Either I have friends or I'm on a CIA watch list.
Anyway, Fuzzy explains that he does actually have one friend from Minnesota named Hank, but he still just really misses Gumball, and to him, Gumball will always be his best friend. How sweet. It's now late at night, and Gumball finally returns home. He feels kind of bad, so he apologizes to Darwin for not telling him about Fuzzy earlier. He also tells Darwin that just because Fuzzy's back doesn't mean that he loves him any less. It's a little sweet, and it's clear that these two are actual best friends. We also get this funny scene.
I love you more than elderly people love walking around in their birthday suits in sports locker rooms.
More than Canadians love telling you which famous people are Canadian.
Well, let's see. We have Jim Carrey, Celine Dion, Seth Rogen, Justin Bieber. That's a big one. Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds. The boys decide to all get together and play some video games in an attempt to break the hostility. Everything seems to be going pretty well. We even get this random funny cutaway.
It's the remote for Mr. Dad's new massage chair.
The point is, at this point, everyone seems to be getting along quite well. But then, Gumball decides to leave the room to get some drinks, and we find out that the whole thing was basically just a facade.
Okay, what's your game, you furry creep muffin?
What comes next is a conversation between Darwin and Fuzzy that seems pretty grounded, actually. Basically, Darwin thinks Fuzzy has some nefarious intentions with Gumball, but Fuzzy constantly reassures him that he literally just wants to reconnect with an old friend. And he seems pretty genuine about it, if I'm being honest. This conversation goes back and forth for a while, until Fuzzy decides that he's basically had enough with this, and it's not worth the hassle. He lets Gumball know that Darwin is making things a little weird, and he just leaves the house. In classic rom-com fashion, we now get a whole scene dedicated to the two main characters fighting over a newer third character who's recently been added to the group. Gumball then decides to leave to go see some bronies or something. I don't know.
Wait, where are you going?
To the Brony Convention in Liechtenstein.
Gumball leaves and actually catches up with Fuzzy and starts walking with him. He's pretty frustrated, so he's venting all his frustrations out, which gets him a little distracted, so he doesn't even realize that he's been walking for like 12 f***ing hours at this point. Yeah, turns out Fuzzy actually led him to his house in Minnesota. So they just walked that whole way on foot. Anyway, Gumball ends up going inside the house, but it's then when things take a dark turn.
Welcome back, Gumball.
What is going on here?
This part is kind of scary, so hold on to your Furbies if you got one. Turns out Fuzzy did actually have some sinister intentions, and he lured Gumball to his house in Minnesota so he could keep him prisoner there and be his best friend forever. There's this backstory about how Fuzzy felt abandoned by Gumball at a young age, so this is his way of getting payback. The old ketchup bottle trick from the first episode probably would have worked great here, but, you know, I get his frustration. Anyway, the scene's getting kind of weird when all of a sudden Darwin shows up and whacks Fuzzy in back of the head with a shovel. Turns out he followed both of them the entire way across the country. What a perfectly sane thing to do. It's here where Gumball and Darwin make up and are happy to finally admit that they're each other's best friend. But then all of a sudden, Fuzzy wakes up and scares the crap out of everyone.
I love you more.
No! He's a female!
We get this epic chase scene, and it also turns out that Fuzzy's like a robot, I guess, which actually makes my Furby theory from earlier more valid, but whatever, it's fine. I predicted it, no big deal. The boys actually try to take Fuzzy out, but it backfires and they get trapped under a tree branch. This is when Fuzzy grabs a giant boulder and is about to finish Darwin off for good, when all of a sudden, this guy, who looks like an Undertale character, shows up and saves the day. Turns out this is Hank. And if you're confused, like I was, and have no idea who the f that is, it's actually the guy Fuzzy mentioned being friends with at the very beginning of the episode. Like when they were on swings and shit, he said he was friends with Hank. This is Hank. This is the guy. That's what I call long-term storytelling. Anyway, Hank literally just grabs Fuzzy and walks away. What a Chad. Gumball and Darwin pretty much have no idea what the f is going on at this point, and the episode ends with this scene.
I'm hungry.
Well, I saw a really good taco truck on the way.
Where?
Somewhere near Wyoming.
This first episode that people dislike is called The Robot. Surely this guy will be super nice. It's not like people have ever mistreated robots before. We start at the school where we see a gang of characters playing soccer or football if you're a bloke in it. This robot's name is Bobbert, and he's kind of a loner. No one really wants to hang out with him. Everyone makes fun of him with no remorse because they figure he's a robot and doesn't actually have feelings. Tell that to my iDog back in 2005. Skipper, if you hear this, I'm sorry and I love you. This is when we cut to Gumball and Darwin playing with some dolls. Trust me, this is very cool.
Would you like a cup of tea, Mrs. Wigglelocks? Don't mind if I do, Mrs. Pumpkin.
Just a couple guys being dudes. They're not dolls, they're action figures. Probably. Gumball and Darwin notice that Bobbert is a little depressed and ask if they could help him out. You see, Bobbert is sad because he wants to be a real boy, which in 2025 could mean he gets drafted into World War III. Might want to wait a while to see how that one goes first. Just my opinion. Gumball explains that to be a real person, Bobbert needs to understand how to use emotions. I'm a little confused by this, to be honest, because we literally just saw this dude being sad, I thought. Maybe he's only got 2 modes installed and the Switch isn't at the right setting. I don't know. In an attempt to demonstrate what emotion is, Gumball pinches Darwin and makes him scream. To fight back, Darwin pinches Gumball, which makes him scream. Of course, this wouldn't be a bad episode if one of the characters wasn't tortured for some reason. SpongeBob fans are all too familiar with that one. I know, firsthand. The next 30 seconds is, and I'm not kidding here, Gumball and Darwin just crying on the floor for a bit. It's obviously very sad. If we weren't all dead inside ourselves, I'm sure most of us would cry with them. All jokes aside, this is actually a great display of emotion, which you'd think Bobbert would understand, but because he's a robot, he just spews out some random equation, and this entire moment just exists to make you realize that this guy is basically an NPC.
X over Y plus the square root of the hypotenuse.
Nerd!
Eventually, Gumball lets Bobbert know that to be a real person, what he has to do is be really cool. It's a bit ambiguous, don't you think? Bobbert does a funny haha and pulls out a fan because cool means cold, and he's a robot. Get it? For his last attempt to help Bobbert, Gumball walks like a default Roblox character because that's apparently very cool and very human. Bobbert fails at this because of course he does. To be honest, this scene lasts a while and drags out a lot. Like, this entire scene is basically the cartoon equivalent of that one piano video with 3 trillion notes being played. Nothing really going on here. Eventually, the boys figure that Bobbert's voice is the problem, so the robot simulates Gumball's voice and now can imitate him perfectly. This makes everyone laugh, including Bobbert, so now I guess he's a real boy.
I am a real boy. Thanks.
What is going on? I love when you can tell that some cartoons need to reach certain time thresholds, so they just add awkward silence in all the time. 10 out of 10 moment. It's peak, honestly. Later that night at Bobbert's house, and we see him still a bit sad, which is an emotion, because although he sounds like Gumball, he still looks like a robot. But then, we get this episode's first evil twist when Bobbert says this.
Initiating transformation.
Yeah, this is gonna end well. Surely. The next day, back at school, a bunch of random students are talking about how Gumball is funny and kind of cute. That's how you know something's wrong. Gumball opens his locker, but all his stuff is gone. That's kind of weird. Gumball eats a burger, but this dude takes it out of his mouth because the school has a strict 1 burger per person policy. So 2 things here about this whole burger situation. 1, obviously this is a little weird because Gumball only had 1 burger. What's going on? This is so mysterious. And 2, the burger that Gumball put in his mouth is later served to a little cactus girl. This isn't that important, but just kind of unfortunate for her. Don't eat it, please. This is when Gumball sees a girl named Penny give a kiss to Bobbert, who she thinks is Gumball, but is actually just a Weasley little liar. I can see where she got confused. The resemblance is uncanny. Gumball gets mad because Bobbert has essentially stolen his identity. He's talking like him, he's looking like him, and according to Bobbert himself, he knows absolutely everything about Gumball now. As far as everyone else is concerned, these two are basically the same person. So far, this episode is a little weird, but nothing's overly bad or hate-worthy, in my opinion. But what happens next is the reason most people seem to really dislike this episode. Saddle up, cowboy. We're in for a ride. Gumball is now walking home. It's dark out now for some reason. He must have used the Biddy Bud and Cute Scoot combo. It's very slow. When he tries to enter his house, he notices the front door is locked. He goes around to the backyard, but the back door is also locked, which is when Gumball peeks through the window and sees Bobbert having dinner with his family. Not only that, but the parents say how much better this version of Gumball has been lately. The real Gumball essentially watching his family getting taken right in front of him.
You're the best son a family could wish for.
Jeez, I can't even blame Gumball, because like, he didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't deserve that. Obviously, Gumball did nothing wrong in this episode, and I'd go as far to say that Gumball was maybe the only person that did anything right, or at least tried to. And yet, for some reason, in this episode, Gumball gets hit with some psychological warfare. He gets like super depressed. He sleeps outside for the night in the freezing cold. I'm not kidding. You can like see this guy shivering and everything. To a lot of people, this is just super mean-spirited to a character that didn't really deserve it, at least, you know, at the time. I always found it odd that writers love torturing their most beloved characters. It seems like most people don't love watching those episodes, but also this is just a goofy cartoon, and I don't know much about the show, to be honest, so like, who cares, honestly. The next morning, when Darwin and Bobbert are playing outside, Gumball comes in frame, and Brawnbreaker spears Bobbert into another dimension. Really, though, these two just fight for a bit. Bobbert activates his self-defense protocol, or as I like to call it, the actual Death Star. Bobbert starts shooting lasers everywhere. I'm pretty sure he's trying to turn Darwin into a cooked salmon. Eventually, he turns into his final form, which is part Mauga, part Panda, and part DJ, I think. This action scene is like a third of the whole episode. There's a nuke that goes off and everything. It's very epic and unfortunately very topical. Eventually, what takes Gumball out though is Bobbert just punching him in the face. Dude loses half his teeth. He gets a black eye. It's not good. He should go to a hospital like right away. Of course though, as Bobbert is about to finish the job, the sprinkler randomly turns on and disables all of Bobbert's weapons. Bobbert pleads to let this version of him live a little longer, but Gumball doesn't care and just resets his software anyway. He does this by touching his eye or something, I think is like what they show. Seems like a bad spot for a system reset button, but what do I know? I'm not an engineer, dude. Okay, I don't know. Bobbert is back to normal, which is to say not human. And to end off the episode, we then get this clip.
What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
This episode, that many say is the worst, is fittingly called The Worst. I've gotten countless comments about this episode specifically. If you know what this episode is, I'm sorry in advance. This episode starts off on the wrong foot entirely when Anais is so mad that she low-key kills two characters instantly. I wish I was kidding. Gumball and Darwin are also very angry themselves, so much so that they give these menacing glances at random side characters, which quite literally kills them off as well. Like, you can see the life of these guys leave their body. It's actually insane. What are we doing? That potato was friendly. He probably had a family or something. Thankfully, this is nothing more than just kids being kids. Nothing here is too serious. Oh wait, no, the mom is also just as mad. Nicole is seen elbow dropping her car. Richard is seen breaking all of the family's plates. Everyone here is having a bad time and we literally have no idea why. My guess is that GTA 6 got delayed again. I know Richard is a big fan of that franchise. In all seriousness, this is when the whole family sits down at the dinner table together. We find out that everyone here basically had a bad day, except no one here blames their individual experiences, but rather the societal burdens put on them based on their gender and age. I'm not kidding. Gumball and Darwin say that being a guy is hard, but Nicole retorts saying that being a girl is much harder. To be honest, she might have a point. She explains it perfectly in this scene.
Being a woman is the worst. It's like playing one of your video games without the stick of happiness.
Anais says that being a kid is hard, but Richard claps back, saying that being an adult is much harder. We essentially have two guild battles going on at the same time here. Girl versus boy and young versus old. What is this? A Mr. Beast video? What are we doing here? This is when every character tells the story about their day one by one. Well, almost. every character. Gumball and Darwin explain that while in the boys' locker room at school, they used a very fruity smelling body wash, which everyone laughed at them for because men are supposed to smell like sandalwood and phoenix and infinite, whatever that is. This part actually is kind of funny because it's totally aware of how silly it is to make fun of someone's masculinity in this way.
They don't smell like the chemicals we've been taught to associate with manliness.
Quick, everyone.
That's actually really funny. What's that? You smell like strawberries? I think you dropped your girl stuff over there. Anyway, everyone makes fun of them because Andrew Tate has infected their brains, which is why they're crying at the dinner table in real time. Nicole explains that women have it way worse and explains what happened during her day. Nicole is seen at her job asking her boss why only men have ever gotten Employee of the Month. The boss explains that if they were to put a picture of a woman up on the wall, all the guys would get distracted. At heart, we're all just ooga booga cavemen, okay, with brains like chimps. Let's be honest. All the guys around Nicole get promoted, including this plant that isn't even alive. And then to top it all off, the boss tells Nicole to smile more around the office, obviously showcasing inequality around the workplace. I hate inequality and stomach cramps. I'm 6'1", by the way. There's also this random Wolf of Wall Street reference where all the dudes are doing that humming song for some reason. So not only does Nicole explain that she gets paid 22% less than all the men, but she also has to let them take all the credit, which is obviously wrong and shouldn't be a thing, but it does lead to Richard's funniest line in the episode.
To let them take all the credit!
You're right. That's a very good point, Gumball.
I shouldn't be laughing at that, but Richard is so goofy. That character is written perfectly for what he is. Anais has her turn, except not really, when she explains that being a kid is tough because the generation before her totally ruined the planet and the economy. There's no flashback here. Everyone just like rubs her face for a bit, and that's like her entire portion of the story. She doesn't really get one for some reason. I guess it like fits for being a child. Richard's turn, and he talks about how being an adult is tough. Not gonna lie, I agree with you. I guess he was at the grocery store earlier that day and harassing the workers there, making them do dubstep noises with the fish. I'm not kidding. But yeah, the workers get mad and told him to grow up, and that's Richard's whole argument. Kind of weak, to be honest, but I stand with my goat. This is when the entire family argues for a bit and eventually decide to swap roles with each other to see who really has it worse. Other than the meta commentary about dated gender roles, there's not really anything to enjoy about this episode, to be honest, especially if you're in this show's target demographic. Like, wouldn't you much rather watch Gumball and Darwin do something exciting instead of complaining and crying the whole time? Whatever, I don't know, maybe I'm the weird one, who knows? The next day, and everyone's swapped roles, Anais wakes up at 6 a.m. and breaks her back because she's old now and that's what old people do. Richard tries to make his way to school, but crashes his car right away because kids can't drive. Very unlucky, not gonna lie. Gumball waxes his body hair and makes the most cursed face of all time. Darwin applies approximately 6 pounds of makeup onto his face before beginning his day. Both of these are hashtag just girl things, according to this episode. Nicole, on the other hand, has barely washed herself at all. She looks in the mirror and is almost completely unrecognizable. Yeah, guys are ugly as hell, I'm not gonna lie. We really do be using one towel for everything and for like a week straight. Anais gets on the bus to go to work, eats one donut, and immediately gets fat, quickly reminding everyone how over it is after you reach 40 years old. Gumball and Darwin are women now, and at first all the guys want to do everything for them, which is cool, but it gets condescending and they feel really annoyed very quickly. Nicole is walking around and she's just ugly. That's the bit. Guys are ugly. Everyone screams and runs away. This definitely seems more like it's making fun of women without makeup instead of men, but whatever. I didn't rate this episode. Richard is at school and is stressed about exams. That's valid, honestly. +1 for the children. Anxiety is the worst. Anais has no imagination anymore. El Bozo. Gumball and Darwin get crushed by a literal invisible glass ceiling, which is actually very funny and clever. I like that bit a lot, honestly. It might be one of my favorite bits in all of Gumball. And finally, Nicole gets injured at her labor job, but can't ask for help or complain because guys are not allowed to do that. Just keep smiling. It is what it is. The whole family later arrives home just as mad as they were at the very beginning of the episode. None of the conflict solved, really, at all. It's just been a completely miserable day for everyone. Nothing enjoyable happened to any of these characters. Very interesting creative decision, not gonna lie. Gumball states that settles the debate then. Everyone here, regardless of gender or age, has it equally bad. Nicole gets really mad because as she explains it, there are actual imbalances that aren't fair. Gumball doesn't really care though because he's a guy, Lamau. And the entire episode ends with this final clip of Nicole.
Women always get cut off in the middle of their...
And that was the episode that completely destroyed Gumball. Was it really that bad? Listen, I didn't like it. I thought there were some clear issues with it, but I don't think it was like unwatchable or anything. I completely understand the point people make when they say that this episode feels like it tries too hard. Apparently, it does its best to come up with examples of inequality and ends up reading like a parody of itself more than an actual episode of Gumball. Not everyone likes social commentary in their cartoons, and a lot of people probably actually hate it. On top of the weird subject matter, it's also an episode where everyone is just mad and annoyed all the time, which isn't the funnest thing to watch. It's the reason I crack a bunch of jokes in my videos instead of just complaining for 20 minutes straight like a bunch of other people. This is meant to be enjoyable. This is a team thing. This episode is so hated to the point where some people have even speculated that the creators wanted to make a bad episode on purpose because it's just that bad. Compared to the first episode, which has a very average issue and solution, where the only real problem is that it doesn't respect its characters, honestly, this last episode feels like it somehow disrespects its viewers, which just isn't a good feeling for a lot of people. Like I said, I don't really care that much. It's just a cartoon and I'm just like some random guy talking about it on the internet. That's all I am. Of course, there's gonna be those comments that say stuff like, it's not that serious, bro. It's just a bit for the memes, which like, sure, but also no one has to like it. So like, I don't know. What are we arguing about here? What are we doing? Okay, I don't know how to start this. These are the episodes that I watched. These are all the bad, quote unquote bad. Not really. Some of them not really. Some of them, yeah, really. These are the worst Gumball episodes ever, apparently, according to like everyone who comments and posts online. This is like the ones that I found. So if there's one that's not here, that should be here, honestly, it's kind of on you. There's the thing, there's a tier list here I'm gonna be doing, okay, but all of these episodes are kind of like the bad ones. But I actually don't think all of these are really that bad. So this might be easier than I think. I don't know. Let's just do it, okay? The dress, honestly, the dress, low-key, not that bad of an episode. People say it's bad. I think out of all of these right here, I think the dress is actually the best episode. So I'm gonna put it in S tier because it's the best, worst episode. But that doesn't mean that it's good, it just means that it's not as bad as the other ones. BFFs, honestly, kind of in the same situation. I'm not putting it S tier because it's not as good as the dress. Didn't hate it. Kind of laughed, thought it was funny. Was maybe like the second ever episode I watched of Gumball, like ever. It reminds me of a Furby. I think I said that in the video. It's cool. I like it. The kiss, gonna be dropping down a couple. I'm probably gonna put it in D. It's not like offensive. It's just, it's kind of weird because the kiss or whatever, but it's not even just that. Like the episode's just not funny to me. They didn't make me laugh. I wasn't really that entertained. I would not want to watch this if I had free time. That's basically it. I'm not gonna lie. The worst, honestly, kind of not the worst. I actually kind of like the worst. I'm gonna put it in B tier. It's got like this weird social commentary thing about like gender politics in current age. It's kind of weird and I would understand why most people don't like it. I understand if people don't like politics in their cartoons. It's very normal. I just don't care and I found it kind of funny how they were talking about it. So put it in B tier because honestly, I don't think it's that bad. These are my opinions. The robot, kind of trash. Putting in C tier. Look at this. We've got a nice line of things. Look at that. The robot, kind of C tier. Same premise as the kiss, honestly. It's just like not a fun episode. There's like a really cool fight scene at the end, which I actually did like, but everything leading up to it is just kind of garbage, in my opinion. There's a scene where Gumball cries a lot and it's super sad. I don't know why I'd ever want to watch that ever again. I don't care about this robot. It is what it is. The promise, honestly, I promise you, this is ass. Speaking of ass, look at the picture. I'm putting it in D. I don't like when characters get tortured for no reason at all. And they really screwed with my homie Banana Joe. They left him hanging. They left him like dead at one point. That was weird. The girlfriend also didn't like. Gonna put it in C tier. It's kind of bad. Yeah. It's bad. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I put it in B, actually. Maybe it wasn't that bad. There is like some humor in it, and the main characters aren't getting bullied or tortured in like a traditional sense. It's kind of like part of the episode where like this girlfriend is very mean and menacing or whatever. Also, like the horror elements, if you can call them that, are kind of cool, I think. I'll put it in B because it's not the worst, but it's tied with the worst. See what I did there? The slap, honestly, D tier. Didn't like it. Don't think I'll ever like it. What is the slap even? You get slapped on the butt, whatever. I can get past that. It's a little weird, but whatever. And then you're stuck on a roof and like dying for like half the episode. I don't know, I'm laughing about it now because the premise is so silly. Maybe there is more humor than I think. Do I put it in C? Nah, put it in D. Screw it. And then the laziest, which is, I don't think many people's worst episode ever, but to me, out of the ones that I've watched, granted, I haven't watched the whole show, so I don't know. And I know that there's a lot of good episodes. Let me preface this before I stop typing the comment about hating me. Okay, I think this show's awesome. I think the laziest is probably the worst episode that I've watched. I don't think it's the worst made. I think if you polled like 1 million people, I don't even think this episode would get voted the worst. To me, personally, I think I enjoyed it the least because they just tortured that guy. I don't like it. I don't know why. They find a guy, they like ruin his life. That's the joke, is that this guy has depression and is really sad now. Yeah, I don't know. For a cartoon, that's a little weird. So but yeah, that's my tier list. That's my personal tier list. That's what I think is the best of the worst and the worst of the worst. That's what it is right there. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Let me know what you think is the worst episode, and maybe let me know what you think the best episode is, because I'm actually curious. I actually want to see some good episodes for once, so let me know and I'll probably watch them all. But as usual, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been every single quote-unquote worst episode of Gumball ever. Hit the like button and leave a comment. It helps out a bunch. And also, if you want to support me directly, you can become a channel member, which starts at only a single $1 and gets your name here at the end of all my future videos. I'll also be having exclusive members only content, where if you're a member, you can watch my full reactions to movies and TV shows like this. That hasn't started yet, but it will start very, very soon with a certain franchise. I'm very excited. Thank you to all my current members. You guys are awesome. A lot of you guys have been members for a while, and I appreciate that so, so much. Paul Abdul scores this one a solid, really bad episodes out of 5. And yeah, thanks for watching.